So, last week the food bank gave away onions. Lots of onions. And the week before that they gave away lots of onions. And we have had an abundance of onions. And people have brought us their extra onions because they don't know what to do with so many onions. But I'd like to show you what we're doing with our onions. We are dehydrating and turning them into onion flakes or onion powder today. So we started with we did cut up and dehydrated about 25 pounds of onions last week. So Joy and I are going to be making onion powder. Go ahead, Joy. And our trusty dehydrator, which we use nearly every single day. And dehydrating onions stinks. The boys have been complaining about the smell emanating from the cellar. It smells like onions and their eyes water. But, yeah, that's what we've been doing anyway. So this is a KitchenAid coffee grinder. It's a refurbished one that I got off of eBay. It's a really nice one. They're quite expensive new. This is a refurbished one, but we're using it as an herb grinder and it works really well for that. You have to kind of smash everything down. It's really crispy. So there you go. Can you see that? And these are the trays. So we dehydrated them quite crispy because they don't really powder very well if you don't get them really, really quite dry. And so just to show you, this is a lot of onions. You can put, I don't know, this is probably 25, 30 pounds of onions ground into powder in here. I'm just guessing. I don't really know for sure. But it goes kind of cakey. And if it gets moisture in it, it will really cake up. Like you really can't separate it out very well. Like I'll show you. So I have a bunch of bottles here that I'm going to repurpose. I put our own dried up spices in just these purchased bottles we use them again. If it's something different than the label, we take the label off and relabel them. Otherwise, we just keep the same purchase label on them and put them back in. Like if we were doing dried garlic, we would just put it back in the same bottle. But since these have no label, we'll just be putting them here. But you can see that this is quite caked. You can't shake it out very well. But wow, that smells a lot like onions, doesn't it? Because it is. But sometimes I'll just put a little bit of cornmeal in as an anti-caking agent. Some people are allergic to corn, so of course you wouldn't want to do that if that was you. But it kind of helps it just flow out and shake out pretty good. And what do you use all this onion powder for? Whatever you use onions for. Dehydrated onions are great seasoning. I like it when we're making tomato juice or pasta sauce or tacos or anything that comes off the cellar. Even when I'm making the juice, sometimes if I'm making V8 juice, I'll just take some of our dried onions and it just, rather than having to do fresh onions and cook them down with the tomatoes, you just throw some of these dehydrated ones, and we've got plenty for when we start tomato season this summer. We've got plenty of onion powder, thanks to all these onions that we've got in the last couple weeks. So anyway, let's try this. These are onion powder flakes. These are we just put them through the food processor, and I ground them up on the French fry setting in my food processor and cooked them down. These are just dried ones that are dried whole, and I like to put these whole ones like in a roast or something. They're quite pretty, and I just put a few of those like on a meat or a roast or whatever. Even with vegetables or something, then I can pick them out and throw them away. Or if I'm canning meat, like some of these jars here, we have some chicken and taco sauce and different things like this. Then I'll just put a dehydrated onion on top for some flavoring for the meat or whatever. There's a lot of things you can use onions for. Basically, you use dehydrated onions for whatever you'd use fresh onions for. You can rehydrate them if you want with water and then use them that way, but the easiest thing to do is to just kind of toss them into whatever you're doing, just like you would a fresh onion. You can also break them up into powder if you don't have a grinder. You can go with a rolling pin and a Ziploc bag dump your dehydrated onions in it and just grind them, powder them, break them apart, whatever. You'll end up with whatever you can do as far as breaking it up manually without a rolling pin. Anyway, let's try this. Let's see how it goes. And it took her quite a little while to grind up this whole bottle. It wasn't. So she shakes it to get it down into the blades. So you can also use a blender. Let's see. Ooh, looky there. So that's our onion powder. Can you see that? That's our onion powder. Wow, it's smoking. And it smells too. It smells like onion powder down here. Yeah. If you have an aversion to the smell of onions for a long period of time, you might want to put your dehydrator outside. I can deal with it. Some people not so much, but yeah, it does smell like onions if you dehydrate for sure. Anyway, thanks for watching our live today. This is dried onion powder, so if you happen to come across a great bunch of onions and you're not quite sure what to do with them before they go bad, try dehydrating. You don't have to have a dehydrator. You can put them in your oven on cookie sheets on a low setting. Like, I think a lot of ovens go down to as low as 160 or 175, between 175 and 200, and just leave them in there. Keep an eye on them, and when they're crispy, then they're dry, and beat them up or crush them up or dry them whole, or however you have appliances to do it. If you have a blender, you can use that. If you have a coffee grinder, you can do that. At the thrift center, I got another little coffee grinder so I can separate coffee beans from herbs. This is what I use for the herb grinders, and it works really well. And there's so many uses for onions. Thanks.